At 2:31 a.m. over the Black Sea, the most expensive stealth bomber ever built discovered that it was not alone. 3 Russian Su-57 stealth fighters, Russia's most advanced 5th-generation combat aircraft, had found a United States B-2 Spirit bomber in international airspace and were not leaving. This was not the standard intercept theater that militaries perform when they want to send a message without creating a crisis. No warning passes at safe distance, no visual identification runs, no close approach designed to rattle nerves and then break away. What happened over the Black Sea in the early hours of this morning was a sustained tail. 3 Su-57s detected, closed on, and maintained a tracking formation behind a B-2 Spirit for 31 consecutive minutes within weapons release range. The B-2 altered course twice. The Su-57s matched both alterations. The B-2 descended through 2 altitude bands. The Su-57s followed. The B-2 eventually exited Black Sea airspace and the Su-57s broke off. 31 minutes of sustained pursuit by aircraft that should not, according to every publicly available assessment of the B-2's stealth performance against 5th-generation radar systems, have been capable of maintaining a weapons quality track on it. And then NATO went silent. No statement from Supreme Allied Commander Europe. No statement from the Pentagon. No statement from the White House. 47 hours after the intercept, the total count of official acknowledgments from any NATO member government is 0. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what happened over the Black Sea, why 31 minutes at weapons release range is not a provocation, but a data collection operation of the highest possible intelligence value, and why NATO's silence tells you more about the significance of this event than any press conference ever could. Let me tell you what the Su-57 actually is, because the aircraft has a reputation problem in Western defense media that is getting in the way of understanding last night. The Su-57 is routinely described as a failed program. Underfunded, delayed, produced in embarrassingly small numbers compared to the F-22 and F-35, compromised in its stealth characteristics. All of those characterizations contain elements of truth. The Su-57 is not as stealthy as an F-22. It has been produced in smaller numbers than originally planned, but the reputation problem obscures what the Su-57 was actually designed to do. And what it was designed to do is not what the F-22 was designed to do. The F-22 was designed as an air superiority fighter optimized for beyond visual range combat against other manned aircraft. The Su-57 was designed as something fundamentally different, a sensor platform, an intelligence collection aircraft that also happens to be a capable combat fighter. That distinction determines everything about its radar architecture. The Su-57's NO36 Bielka radar system is an active electronically scanned array with 5 separate antenna apertures distributed across the airframe. Not 1 forward-facing antenna, 5. 1 primary forward aperture, 2 side-looking apertures. 2 additional apertures in the wing leading edges providing rearward and lateral coverage. 5 separate radar arrays giving the Su-57 simultaneous 360-degree coverage around the aircraft. That architecture was built for a specific mission that a forward-only radar cannot perform, detecting and tracking a low observable target that is not approaching head-on. A stealth aircraft's lowest radar cross-section is its frontal aspect. The nose-on view, its cross-section from the side, from above, from below, from the rear, is substantially larger. An aircraft with only a forward-looking radar sees the B-2's frontal aspect, where stealth is most effective. An aircraft with side-looking and rear-looking apertures sees the aspects where stealth is weakest. Last night, 3 Su-57s approached the B-2 from different directions simultaneously, one from slightly ahead and left, one from the right, one from below and behind. That geometry was not a standard intercept formation. It was a deliberate multi-aspect illumination. 3 aircraft with multi-aperture radars surrounding a single target from angles that exposed its higher cross-section aspects simultaneously. They were not trying to find the B-2 the way everyone expected. They were surrounding it and illuminating it from every direction where its stealth was least effective, sharing radar data through a real-time data link and fusing that picture into a single combined track. Russia did not try to defeat B-2 stealth by brute force against the frontal aspect. It defeated it by surrounding the aircraft and illuminating it from the angles that stealth was never designed to protect. Let me walk you through the 31 minutes in sequence because the timeline reveals the mission's purpose in a way that the headline does not. Minutes 0 through 7. The three Su-57s, vectored toward the B-2's general position by Russian ground-based radar cueing from the S-400 network along the eastern Black Sea coastline, made initial radar contact at approximately 65 kilometers. That contact range is itself significant. Previous intercepts of B-2s by Russian and Chinese aircraft produced radar contacts at ranges of 20 to 35 kilometers. Close enough for visual identification, but not sufficient for a sustained weapons quality track at operational engagement range. 65 kilometers of initial radar contact on a B-2, achieved by the Su-57's multi-aperture cooperative system, represents more than a doubling of previously demonstrated detection performance against this target. The three aircraft closed to approximately 18 kilometers, well within the engagement range of the R-30 hypersonic air-to-air missile that the Su-57 carries as its primary beyond visual range weapon, and established the encircling formation with one aircraft forward left, one right, one aft, and low. Three separate radar aperture sets illuminating different aspects of the B-2's airframe simultaneously. All radar data being shared in real time and fused into a single cooperative track picture. Minutes 7 through 19. This is the data collection phase, and it is where the true purpose of this intercept becomes legible. The Su-57s were not maneuvering aggressively. They were not performing harassment runs. They were maintaining precise formation separation, consistent distances, and fixed relative bearings that maximized the cooperative radar geometry while keeping the B-2 in simultaneous multi-aspect illumination. They were conducting what signals intelligence professionals call a controlled measurement. What they were measuring is the B-2's radar cross-section at every aspect angle available from their formation geometry. The Su-57's radar system, operating in high-resolution inverse synthetic aperture mode, can build a detailed electromagnetic image of a target, mapping the radar reflectivity of individual structural features, identifying which surfaces and edges produce which radar returns, constructing what is called a radar cross-section profile across frequency bands and aspect angles. 12 minutes of sustained cooperative illumination of a B-2 from three aspect angles simultaneously using the most capable airborne radar system Russia has ever flown produces a characterization of the B-2's electromagnetic signature that is more detailed and more complete than anything Russia has previously obtained. Russia did not need to shoot the B-2 down last night. Shooting it down would have ended the data collection after a single engagement and started a war. 31 minutes of sustained cooperative radar illumination produced something more valuable than a kill. A complete electromagnetic map of the B-2's stealth characteristics from aspects and at ranges that ground-based systems and previous intercepts have never been able to achieve. Russia went home with information that is worth more than wreckage. Minutes 19 through 26. The B-2 altered course, turning approximately 35 degrees to the right. The change of heading shifted the relative aspect angles of all three Su-57s simultaneously, presenting new geometry and new cross-section aspects to the cooperative radar picture. The Su-57s matched the turn precisely, maintaining their formation separation and relative bearings through the maneuver. That formation maintenance through a course alteration tells you something critical. You cannot match a target's turn precisely while maintaining a multi-aircraft formation if you are working from a marginal or degraded track. The precision of the formation hold through two course alterations confirms a weapons quality track, one precise enough to guide a missile, sustained continuously for the full duration of the intercept. Minutes 26 through 31. The B-2 exited Ukrainian airspace and entered Romanian airspace over the western Black Sea. Romania is a NATO member. The Su-57s, operating from Russian-controlled airspace, broke off the tail at the boundary. The intercept ended not because the track was lost, not because the B-2 employed any countermeasure or electronic warfare that disrupted the cooperative track. It ended because the political boundary of NATO airspace represents a line Russia chose not to cross last night. The track was still valid when the Su-57s turned back. They left because they were finished, not because they were stopped. Now, let me tell you what Russia collected in those 31 minutes. Because this is where the intercept transforms from a military encounter into a strategic intelligence event. The first category of intelligence is aspect-dependent radar cross-section mapping. Every stealth aircraft has a cross-section that varies by angle. The frontal aspect is the minimum. The side aspects, the aft aspect, and specific angular combinations that expose structural features like control surfaces, exhaust nozzles, and sensor apertures are substantially larger. Russia now has a measured empirical cross-section profile of the B-2 across the aspect angles available from last night's geometry, not estimated from design analysis, not inferred from published test data, measured in operational conditions from an aircraft performing its actual mission using the radar system Russia would use to engage it. That profile tells Russian air defense planners something of enormous operational value. From which directions, at which ranges, using which radar frequencies. Can a Russian system reliably track a B-2? Before last night, Russia had theoretical models. After last night, Russia has empirical data. The second category is emission characterization. The B-2's own radar, navigation, and communication systems were active during the intercept, as they would be on any real mission. The Su-57's electronic intelligence collection systems spent 31 minutes recording every signal the B-2 emitted. Frequency, pulse characteristics, modulation patterns, data link protocols. The electronic signature library of the B-2, measured at close range during operational flight, is now in Russian possession. That library is what passive detection systems need to find the B-2 without using active radar. The third category is flight performance data, speed, turn radius, altitude ceiling, rate of altitude change. The B-2's actual in-flight performance parameters, measured under stress rather than estimated from published specifications, informs the fire control solutions that Russian air defense planners will use for future engagements. The fourth category is the one that no official statement will directly address. Russia has now demonstrated to its own pilots, its own air defense planners, and every allied military analyst watching this conflict that the Su-57's cooperative radar architecture can maintain a weapons quality track on a B-2 Spirit for 31 continuous minutes in operational conditions. That demonstration is not just data, it is doctrine validation. It tells every Russian air defense commander, every Su-57 pilot, and every Iranian, Chinese, and North Korean military analyst who has been studying this war that the detection problem the B-2 was designed to make unsolvable has a solution. Let me explain NATO's silence, because 47 hours without a single official statement from any member government is not confusion or bureaucratic delay. The Black Sea airspace is among the most densely monitored in the world. NATO maintains continuous airborne surveillance via E-3 Sentry AWACS aircraft from Romanian airspace. RC-135 rivet joint signals. Intelligence aircraft operate in the region on near-continuous rotations. Romania, Bulgaria, and Turkey maintain ground-based radar coverage of the entire sea basin. The idea that a 31-minute close formation intercept involving 3 Su-57s and a B-2 Spirit occurred without being observed and recorded by NATO surveillance assets is not credible. NATO knows exactly what happened. The silence is not ignorance. It is a deliberate, strategic choice. Here is why. Formally protesting the intercept means officially confirming that Russian aircraft found and tracked a B-2, which is an intelligence disclosure NATO would prefer not to make. Demanding Russian explanation means opening a diplomatic channel Russia will use to extract further acknowledgement of what the Su-57s demonstrated. Calling it a provocation means defining a threshold Russia can exploit in future encounters. In this analysis, silence is not passivity. It is the least damaging available option in a situation where every option has costs. But there is a deeper reason for the silence. NATO is not just managing the politics of the intercept. It is processing its implications. You do not issue a public statement about an event whose full strategic meaning you have not yet determined. NATO's silence is the sound of an alliance updating threat assessments that were built on assumptions that last night's intercept has permanently revised. Let me connect this to money, because the B-2 Spirit program costs illuminate why 31 minutes of Russian data collection is so strategically devastating. The United States has spent approximately $2.1 billion per aircraft on the B-2 program, with total program costs, including development, exceeding $44.75 billion for 21 aircraft. The B-2's premium over other strike aircraft was paid almost entirely for one capability: the ability to penetrate defended airspace undetected. That capability justified the cost differential between a B-2 and a conventional bomber. Last night, the most operationally significant component of that $44.75 billion investment, the electromagnetic invisibility that allows the B-2 to operate in defended airspace, was measured characterized and recorded by a foreign military for 31 minutes. The data collected last night does not make the B-2 worthless, but it narrows the operational conditions under which the B-2's stealth advantage is sufficient. And narrowing those conditions is the same as narrowing the return on a $44.75 billion investment. Every mission parameter that must now change, every route that must now avoid areas where Su-57s might be operating, every air defense suppression mission that must now be added to protect B-2 ingress represents additional cost, layered on top of a program that was already the most expensive in American aviation history. Now let me tell you where the data goes, because this intercept is not a bilateral American-Russian event. It is a multilateral strategic development. Russia and Iran have maintained a defense cooperation relationship that has deepened significantly throughout this conflict. Iranian Shahed drone technology transferred to Russia. Russian S-400 air defense technology transferred to Iran. The two countries describe their relationship as a strategic partnership without limits, which in the language of defense cooperation means intelligence on adversary capabilities flows routinely between them. The B-2 electromagnetic profile collected last night is exactly the category of intelligence that flows through this partnership. Iran's air defense planners will have access to it. China's relationship with Russian defense intelligence produces the same result through different channels. China is developing the H-20 stealth bomber, its own B-2 analog. The B-2 radar cross-section profile at non-frontal aspects, measured empirically by a cooperative multi-aircraft system, is precisely the data that Chinese stealth aircraft engagement planners need. What Russia collected in 31 minutes over the Black Sea will inform Iranian air defense planning, Chinese stealth aircraft engagement doctrine, and North Korean technical analysis of American capabilities within weeks. A single intercept, conducted without a shot fired, without a treaty violation, without a single official acknowledgement, has just improved the anti-B-2 capability of every state that shares intelligence with Russia. The strategic multiplier effect of 31 minutes is measured not in the data itself, but in the number of adversaries who now possess it. Let me tell you what this means for the larger pattern of this war, because the Black Sea intercept does not stand alone. It is the latest in a sequence. Interceptor stockpiles drained across multiple bases by salvos designed for depletion. Air defense systems overwhelmed by layered drone and missile combinations. Supply chains severed by submarine operations thousands of miles from the battlefield. The most advanced stealth bomber in the world tracked by cooperative radar architecture for 31 minutes. Each event taken individually is a serious but bounded military setback. Taken together as a sequence, they represent something larger. The systematic, domain-by-domain mapping and exploitation of the specific conditions under which American military superiority degrades. American forces are not losing battles. They are not surrendering territory. But the margins of their dominance in every domain they depend on are being methodically identified, measured, and reduced by adversaries who understand that they cannot match American capability directly, but can, over time, narrow the gap between American capability and the conditions under which that capability can be effectively employed. The testing is the strategy. Last night, the stealth assumption was tested. The data from that test is already moving through the intelligence networks that connect Moscow to Tehran to Beijing. And somewhere in the classified annexes of NATO's threat assessment, analysts are updating models that were built on assumptions that 31 minutes over the Black Sea has permanently revised. Here is what I need you to understand. 3 Su-57s found a B-2 Spirit over the Black Sea at 65 kilometers using cooperative multi-aperture radar. They closed to 18 kilometers within R-37M missile range and held a 31-minute weapons quality track through 2 course changes and 2 altitude band changes. Russia collected the B-2's radar cross-section profile from multiple aspect angles, its complete electromagnetic emission signature, and its actual flight performance data under operational stress. The data is now in Russian possession. It will reach Iran within weeks. It will reach China shortly after. NATO has said nothing for 47 hours. The $44.75 billion program, built on the assumption of electromagnetic invisibility, just had that invisibility measured and characterized by the adversary it was designed to defeat. Mainstream media is treating this as a military incident, a close approach, a provocation, an escalation. They are using the language of diplomatic tension to describe what was actually a precision intelligence collection operation executed in plain sight in international airspace. They are not explaining what cooperative multi-aperture radar does to a stealth aircraft's frontal aspect advantage. They are not telling you that the data collected last night improves Iran's ability to track the same aircraft that has been bombing Iranian targets throughout this war. They are not connecting 31 minutes of Russian radar illumination to the $44.75 billion that America paid for the ability those 31 minutes just partially characterized. They are not asking the question that every B-2 mission planner is asking this morning behind closed doors. What do we change now that Russia knows what it learned last night? The story they are telling is about a close call in international airspace. The story I just told you is about the moment the world's most expensive stealth program discovered that its most important attribute was being measured, recorded, and distributed to adversaries who will use it to find the next B-2 the moment it enters range. Both stories are real, but only one of them explains why NATO went silent, and why it may stay silent for a very long time. Subscribe to War and Money Report. We deliver daily intelligence briefings that connect stealth aircraft to radar architecture, data collection operations, to strategic multiplier effects, and the 31 minutes of silence over the Black Sea to the billions of dollars and thousands of missions that will be affected by what Russia learned while NATO watched and said nothing. Hit the notification bell because Russia knows what it found last night. The question is what it will do with it next. And in this war, the answer to that question determines what flies, what survives, and what the $44.75 billion investment in American stealth was actually worth.